We're coming to you live from the Quicken Loans Studios. National Mortgage Lender. Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, and mortgage confidently. Sunday morning here on the Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio, 5:05 a.m. Eastern Time, taking up until 6 a.m. We got to continue the draft conversation, and we're going to do it right now with someone that works very closely with a lot of quarterbacks in this draft. Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, and also Kyle Allen. And that's Jordan Palmer, the former NFL quarterback. You could check him out at QBSummit.com. And he is a mentor to those three quarterbacks that we just mentioned. So let's welcome in Jordan. And Jordan, right out of the gate, I'm an East Coast guy. Josh Allen's been a big topic of conversation. I don't get to see him play a lot. Sell me a little bit on Josh Allen as a quarterback and also the type of person he is.
Yeah, Josh is a really special talent. I mean, physically, he's got he checks every box, but he's also just got a couple of wow aspects of his game. Just how much juice he puts on the ball. He can control it and he can make every throw, but he can just create a lot of energy and a lot of power when he throws. As a player, he's a guy that has just had one of the most interesting journeys I've ever seen, from the high school to JUCO to Wyoming to an injury and then 2 years of starting. So he's just had this really interesting journey, and I think it's made him into a guy who's ready to kind of go to the next level and play with everybody at his level talent-wise and then see where he can take it.
Jordan, this QB draft process. You have people throwing the quarterbacks under a microscope. They have 9,000 positives, 9,000 negatives, but the two negatives that you hear about Josh Allen are the accuracy issues and also his performance up against Power 5 schools. So just walk me through those two negatives.
Yeah. I've been doing this a while, and I've been paying attention to it for even longer. And every single player that enters the league, all these quarterbacks, all the top ones, they all have holes in their game. They all have areas that they need to get better at, and they all have tons of new stuff they have to learn. Because they're just really, in college quarterbacks, they're just not asked to do all the same things that NFL quarterbacks are asked to do. There's more on their plate in the league. In terms of accuracy with Josh, there's really two sides of accuracy, and I've kind of talked about this offseason, where it's what the quarterback's doing, and then there's what's happening on the other side of on the other end of the throw too. And I think Josh was, in a system that was different than some of the other schools in these spread systems. When you throw a bunch of bubble screens, you throw a couple a game. At the end of the season, those are high completion percentage throws. You kind of get a free 4, 6, 8, 10% of completions. Because if you're guaranteed 4 or 5 completions every game, that adds up. And so there's like a little bit of that. There's a little bit of, there's not a lot of separation on tape with his receivers, and so he's got to wait till they're open and throw it hard. But I've been around him enough to know that he's actually an anticipatory thrower. He just wasn't able to really do it a ton in college. And then there's, him just running around trying to make plays. And so you look at 56%, and a lot of the game tape that I've seen, I kind of feel like 56% was kind of impressive. What you don't see is 10 misses sailing the ball out of bounds a game. And I think when people knock the 56% thing, it's a bunch of people who've never seen the tape. And because, like you said, on the East Coast, never even seen him play. So a lot of people are talking about 56%. And if they really watch the tape, there's a lot of aspects of that actually impressed me to get to 56.
And Jordan, that's the one part of the draft process that I can't stand, is so many people give an opinion about someone that they don't actually see play more than maybe a game or two, or don't even see him play at all. That's why we go to someone like you, as we're talking to Jordan Palmer right now on CBS Sports Radio. Just how does a kid deal with that when people are criticizing him and they haven't really seen him play?
Yeah. Well, it's tough, and it makes me just not even care at all about what I'm hearing, good or bad, even the celebrations of the guys that any of these guys, because I really like all these guys and I've spent a lot of time with all of them. But, in terms of people kind of poking holes in all these different aspects of their game, it's just natural. There's nothing else to talk about right now. And so here we are trying to find things wrong with everybody on top of the things that everybody wants to celebrate.
You know how key the trust circle is for dealing with an NFL draft prospect. How do you develop that relationship that you've been able to develop with Josh, Sam, and also Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I do work with quarterbacks at all ages. I run QB Summit camps for high school kids and even younger, a lot of middle school kids. And instead of having coaches, my bringing in coaches, my coaches are the top college starting quarterbacks and guys that are on their journey. And so I really try and blend all the different ages together. And through that process, for me personally, I'm just here to serve. I had my journey, and I'm just trying to literally help these guys. I know certain people hearing this thinking it's cheesy, but I'm literally just trying to help these guys wherever they're at in their journey. And there's a lot of very specific things that I can do, and from a mechanics and offense and defense, but really everybody kind of needs different things during this draft period. And I always talk about this. This is the only 3-month period in these kids' whole career. The whole career, if they play in 5th grade to 15 years in the league, it's only 3-month period where all they have to worry about is themselves, no teammates, no class, no marketing, no buddies bugging you to go out, no family wanting to hang out. All you are is focused on yourself. And so it's an amazing opportunity to get better. And all of these guys kind of need different emphasis on different things. And I think I've developed a reputation of being able to really serve those guys and really help them.
You look at quarterbacks like Josh Allen and Sam Darnold, they're expected to go very early in this draft. And when you go very early in the draft, you're expected to not only be a successful quarterback, but also be the face of the franchise and also a leader. How are they as people? How are those two quarterbacks as a leader of a football team?
Yeah, man, they're totally different guys. They have a ton in common, but different personalities, different backgrounds, different strengths and weaknesses, which was rad because, yes, they competed on the field every day, and yes, they competed in the classroom. And I know we're talking about Sam and Josh, but this third dude, Kyle Allen, there's a lot of teams that are. He's gonna be a very interesting guy to watch on this week, next weekend. But going through that process, I mean, there's so much to learn and so much evaluation that I think the leadership side of these guys has just been. They're kind of magnets. They kind of draw people towards them. And I always talk about there's 2 types of leadership. And this is a Trent Dilfer thing that he introduced to Elite 11, where you talk about thermostat or thermometer leaders. So there's a lot of different leadership styles, right? There's like rah-rah, there's just demand, there's all different types of leadership. But there's 2 real brands, and that's either thermostat or thermometer. And a thermometer leader kind of just tells you what temperature the room is, kind of just blends in. A thermostat leader dictates the temperature of the room. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, but I like to put guys into one of those 2 buckets. And both of these guys with different styles are thermostat leaders.
Outstanding stuff. Let's get to Kyle Allen just for a few seconds. I do watch a lot of American Athletic Conference football. Saw him in the few games he did play for Houston. He comes out early. I know we're focusing a lot on Josh and Sam, but what is it that you really do like about Kyle Allen?
Yeah, Kyle's been a guy I met in high school, and, he was a top recruit coming out. So he was Deshaun Watson's year, and it was always about Kyle Allen in that class. And, I get a chance to help out and coach at the Elite 11, so we get to see all the top high school kids in the country every year. And I vividly remember him and kind of stayed in touch with him. I watched him go to Texas A&M as a true freshman, following Johnny Manziel, light it up, throwing the ball all over the place. Everyone's all the mock drafts then had Kyle Allen, the early ones, like the 3-year early ones, all had Kyle Allen as the top pick. And then his sophomore year, just long story, but kind of craziness happened and a bunch of stuff that really wasn't his fault, and he just really handled it well. He ended up kind of getting benched, but it was kind of, it was just this weird situation where the kid got, kicked in the stomach. And he just handled it really well. Went to Houston to play for Tom Herman, who's, going to be here, all that stuff. Sits out. Tom Herman leaves and goes to Texas. And Kyle's response is he's got to do what's best for his family. He supported the decision, but then he's dealt a really weird hand of cards. And kind of got benched again for the different version of the same reason. And so I'm just kind of watching all this, and I've been working with him and hanging out, and he's got some great people, coaches he's worked with on the side too. And I just watched this dude handle this terrible situation twice and kind of just be awesome and ball out through it. So when he joined this group of Sam and Josh, he's going throw for throw with these guys, and it's every aspect is competitive every day. This kid is, no one's really talking about him. He's super unique.
Yeah, I'm interested to see some of those hidden gems in this year's draft, like a Kyle Auletta, a Chase Liddon, or maybe if that hidden gem ends up being Kyle Allen. Let's get back to Sam Darnold. He had a lot of pressure going into this year at USC. He was the guy. Was supposed to be the number one pick in the draft. I do end up thinking he will be the number one pick for the Browns, but going into this year, all the attention was on him. He was supposed to win the Heisman. He did not do that. How do you think he handled the pressure of being the main guy that everyone was watching going into this year at USC?
Yeah, it's tough, man. You know, what's happening in college football right now is the college football as a whole, the NCAA is going to, they're going to start to market college football, and so they grab their marquee guys. When you're one of those marquee guys, what ends up happening is when you're the face of college football, not the face of your school, every quarterback is the face of their program. When you're the face of college football, 2 years ago, I went through this with Deshaun Watson. Last year, I went through this with Sam Darnold. This offseason, it's going to be, Drew Lock and Jarrett Stidham. When you go through that process, what happens is all the local media, all your fans, all your friends, everybody, they create expectations that are literally like unreachable. They create the expectation that you are going to complete 99% of your passes for 250 touchdowns and no picks. They create it so this type of pressure, and you got to think these kids are 18, 19 years old. So you create unrealistic expectations. Well, when I have a relationship with these guys and they're going through it, what I tell them, instead of, oh, it's going to be okay and this is going to be really hard, I look at it and go, guess what? You're getting an early rep at what it's like to be a franchise quarterback every year. Expectations higher than what's probably possible. So it's actually a great rep. And I thought that Sam did a fantastic job of handling that by literally not caring what anybody said, not listening to the things, not checking Twitter, not focusing on other people's opinions, just focusing on his team. So in terms of like his stats or his numbers or anything, whatever, I thought he did an amazing job of handling a pressure that most fans, and basically no fans, have ever felt.
You bring up Twitter, and we talk a lot about Sam Darnold in this process, and whenever I talk about him, you get 50 people that tweet me that they love him, and then 50 people that tweet me that they don't love him because of the turnovers. You did break down for us the accuracy issues with Josh Allen. Now take us through the turnover problems from a year ago with Sam Darnold.
Yeah, in terms of interceptions, I thought it was just kind of one of those years where there's a couple of every quarterback every year is going to throw a couple picks that's not their fault, right? So he had a couple of those, couple forced balls, probably shouldn't have thrown that, and no real misses, no like throwing the ball 5 yards over somebody's head, and the guy behind him, none of those. So definitely forced some balls in there. But the fumbles in the pocket, I think, is interesting because I think it's the worst play in football, sack fumble for a quarterback. It's the worst thing you can do. Because a pick, I may throw a pick 40 yards down the field. Sack fumble, somebody more athletic than my guys that I have standing around me is going to pick that thing up. So, those are scores or those are turnovers right there. So saying that, setting context, I think it's the worst play in football. You got to look at, if you're going to look at all the fumbles that Sam had moving around in the pocket, you have to measure those against all the times when he moved around, made something happen, and threw for a big first down or a touchdown. Because no quarterback should stand back there and take their hand off the ball and hold it with one hand. Should not do it. But a lot of Sam's fumbles is him trying to make something happen. And he had a couple plays where he didn't make it happen and it was a fumble. But he's also got a really cool highlight reel of a ton of plays where he's got one hand on the ball, he's making somebody miss, and he's making something magical happen. Now, as he gets ready to play in the NFL, and I think that he's made a step in the right direction in the last 3 months, he's going to have to learn how to manage that the risk versus the reward of moving like that in the pocket. And he's only 20 years old, so I'm just going to place a bet on this for sure that in the next year and 2 and 3, he's going to turn into a guy who really gets good at creating that time and space and making that magic happen without the risk of unnecessary fumbles.
We're talking with Jordan Palmer on CBS Sports Radio, one of the best in the business. Got a chance to meet him at this past Super Bowl on Radio Row inside the Mall of America. Check him out on QBSummit.com. All right, let's go rapid fire here. I want to get your thoughts on some of the other quarterbacks. Let's start it off with Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson, I think, has got to be one of the most dynamic athletes to enter the league. I haven't really been around him a whole lot, but just a guy that I think I have no idea where he's getting drafted, no idea who loves him, any of those things. But I think if he can get on a team that has a really, good football savvy staff that's really creative and not set in their ways, they can manufacture a lot of touches with him. I think for him to become a franchise quarterback, he's going to have to get a lot of game experience of just touching the ball, whether that's in quarterback, whether that's getting a jet sweep, whether that's getting thrown. I think he's got to get a ton of touches, and over time, we'll see if he can turn into a guy who can be a big-time quarterback, because he is so electric, and people just gravitate towards him. So he's a guy I think is going to play for a long time and make a lot of plays. I'm excited to see what version of quarterback we're going to see out of Lamar.
Next up, Baker Mayfield, Oklahoma.
I think a walk-on winning the Heisman is probably one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in football. It is just, for a walk-on to get a scholarship is hard. Not very few do. For him to do what he did is unbelievable. I think confidence is the most important trait in a quarterback. So anybody who's said that he's cocky, doesn't bother me at all. I think confidence is the most important trait, and he's got that in spades. And he's played against really good competition. He played at Oklahoma, but he also played Ohio State this year. He played some big schools, and he's just the definition of consistency across the last couple of years for him playing. So I think he's a guy who can play earlier than most people think, because of the way that he can move around, extend the play, and make plays happen.
A guy you know very well, Jordan, and Josh Rosen.
Yeah, Rosen, my brother and I, every year, we kind of break these guys down, and Rosen, with the ball in his hand in the game, is he's special. Gets it out quick. He computes things so fast. Really, really accurate. I think he's NFL accurate. Like, can throw it to an open guy on the right spot, but also can throw people open. And I know much has been made about how he is off the field, but I've said this before, when you're in college, especially in LA, you got opportunities to be interested in all kinds of things. There's business there, there's marketing there, there's Hollywood there, there's school, there's being a regular college student. Every quarterback faces it, but when you're in LA, it's a lot of things to be excited about and interested in. And I think as he becomes a franchise quarterback and he goes all in on football, and I believe that that's what's going to happen, I think he's going to be special.
And I'll end you on this one, Mason Rudolph.
Mason's a guy I've got a chance to spend some time with. He's super competitor, can make every throw. He can throw it a lot better than everybody than it may even appear on TV, because there's all these other arms everybody's talking about, but people kind of forget about Mason. And he's played at a high level. There's a lot of expectations at Oklahoma State, and people expect big yards and big games out of their quarterbacks there. And he's just been the kind of next in line to come in and deliver on that. I'm excited to see him kind of transition to the NFL, because I think he has off the field a lot of the stuff that you need, doing the lonely work and putting in the extra time. I think all that stuff's natural for him. And I'm not sure what round he's going to get drafted and where he's going to get drafted or any of that stuff. But I know when he gets in there, he's going to be a guy who's going to manufacture a really good career.
Last one with Jordan Palmer, and I'm going to end you on a fun one that I hope you break some news for us, but you probably won't be able to do so. Any idea who goes number one in this year's NFL draft?
Dude, it's crazy. I have no idea. It's funny, my wife and I are pregnant, and we're not gonna find out if it's a boy or a girl. And so people say things like, oh, you're sick? Oh yeah, it's a girl. Or, oh, you're carrying it this way? Oh, it's a boy. Everybody thinks they know. But then you end up hearing about 50% of them say it's a boy, 50% of them say a girl, and at some point you go, I have no idea what it is. I don't even care. This is very, very similar to that. This draft, I've never known less about what's going to happen at the top. So I'm excited to see what's going to unfold next week.
Well, congratulations to you and your family, Jordan. I tell you, you're one of the best in the business. Check them out, QBSummit.com. That's Jordan Palmer. Jordan, we appreciate it. Thanks so much. We'll do it again real soon.
Thanks a lot, man.